Waruna, Wajrāsana,
the undefilable Dhamma.
A karmasthāna based on the principle of sapta visuddhiyā, or the 7 stages of purification. We have received this topic for our Dhamma discussion. What should be done to figure out a karmasthāna based on the principle of sapta visuddhiyā, or the 7 stages of purification? Well, the 7 stages of purification consist of sila visuddhiyā, the purification in virtue; chitta visuddhiyā, the purification of mind; ditthi visuddhiyā, the purification of view; kaṅkā vitarana visuddhiyā, the purification by overcoming doubt; magga gnāna dassana visuddhiyā, the purification by knowledge and vision of what is path and not path; patipada gnāna dassana visuddhiyā, the purification by knowledge and vision of the course of practice; and gnāna dassana visuddhiyā, the purification by knowledge and vision. In other words, these are 7 factors required to accomplish the noble path. We call them sapta visuddhiyā, or the 7 stages of purification. We need to figure out the sapta visuddhiyā before we get on with the practicing of the noble path. There are many modes of practice that would have to be understood one by one in great detail. But once a basic Dhamma has been clarified, we can focus on any of the modes of practice, such as Satara Satipatthāna or Arya-asṭhāngika Mārga. Whatever mode we are utilizing, if our aim is to experience the truth, we can do that with Arya-asṭhāngika Mārga as well as Sila Visuddhiyā. The accomplishment of any of the modes of practice, such as Trivida Sucharita, Satara Satipatthāna, Arya-asṭhāngika Mārga or Sapta Bojjhanga, would have the same effect. They would all build up Satis Bodhipākṣika Dharma, or the 37 qualities conducive to awakening, making the accomplishment of the noble path possible. And we need to understand that sapta visuddhiyā too is one of such mode. It is one method of building up Satis Bodhipākṣika Dharma. If we were to clarify the method of Trivida Sucharita, we would be clarifying the same thing. One method can be explained using other methods as well. The same details could be explained by way of the Pancha Indriya, Pancha Bala, Sapta Bojjhanga or Arya-asṭhāngika Mārga for that matter. And when we practice any karmasthāna based on any of these methods, the Noble Eightfold Path or the 7 factors of awakening would be fulfilled by way of building up Satis Bodhipākṣika Dharma. For the sake of clarification, we could be considering each item that comes within the purview of each mode of practice, such as Satis Bodhipākṣika Dharma, Arya-asṭhāngika Mārga or Satara Satipatthāna. With detailed analysis, it will be evident that each mode is included within one another. For example, with the fulfillment of Trivida Sucharita, we would be fulfilling Satara Satipatthāna as well. The meditation of Arya-asṭhāngika Mārga or Satara Satipatthāna or Sapta Bojjhanga or any other mode of practice would reinforce Satis Bodhipākṣika Dharma, facilitating the awakening process. Knowing this, we should then turn our focus on figuring out Sila Visuddhiyā, or the purification of virtue. Note that any observance of a commitment to abstinence from immoral acts would not be a part of Visuddhiyā. But nowadays, the observance of such commitments in any of the forms of Pancha Sila Vata, Ashtanga Sila Vata, Gihi Dasa Sila Vata, Navanga Uposatha Vata, Samanera Dasa Sila Vata, Upasampada Dasa Sila Vata is wrongly regarded as Sila Visuddhiyā. It is the same case for Ājīva Ashtamaka Sila as well. yang samadhanam tangvatam. Abstinence from doing something with effort is a commitment. Sangvaratena silang. If a kind of discipline in conduct is acquired without having to observe any commitment, that is called sila, the preferred kind of morality in Buddhism. Without the emergence of intrinsic natural discipline or restraint in conduct, sila will not arise. How does one be incurred with the intrinsic natural discipline or restraint in conduct? And what is the role of a vata in this regard? A vata supports sila. There are those who have obtained sila without resorting to the practicing of a vata. Without committing to any abstinence pleasures, they were able to become sotapanna just by listening to the Dhamma. A sotapanna acquires qualities of sila that are unbreakable, undamageable, invulnerable, and untainted. On the contrary, a vata does not yield such unwavering qualities. We need to see the underlying cause of these unwavering qualities. This Dhamma is based on causes and effects relationship. That is why the sila that arises from such Dhamma is unbreakable, undamageable, invulnerable, and untainted. What is the reason for that? With abstinence pleasures, we can fully commit ourselves to remain vigilant, to abstain from immoralities, exerting a lot of effort. Let us consider an analogy to better understand this. Due to some illness or injury, suppose a hand of a person is cut off. Suppose he had been previously instructed to keep from touching certain things under any condition. Someone had warned him against laying a hand on something. Anywhere he went, he was prohibited from touching that particular thing. As long as he had the hands, he had to remain so vigilant not to touch that thing, probably having to curtail his needs and habits. He surely needed to have remembered the thing that is not to be touched, and with effort he could have been complying with his instructions. Now, suppose both his hands are cut off. Now, does anyone has to specifically warn him against touching whatever that is not to be touched? Even when he is not attentive, he could never touch that thing, even if he wanted. He does not have to remember the warning or about the absence of his hands. Even when he is not aware of the absence of his hands, he would never be able to touch anything. When he remembers the absence of his hands, he would still not be able to touch anything. Previously, he had to remain vigilant and act carefully. Similarly, if the mind, word, and body are used as tools to carry out certain immoral acts, one would have to remain mindful as to how he is using the mind, word, and body. He would have to make use of a vata and act carefully in full compliance. With that, he would gain some artificial type of discipline, and he is forced to renounce the immoral side of things. Suppose the root cause of immorality is eradicated from one's mind. Now, he has no use of a vata to become disciplined. Once the mentality that drives the immoral behavior is dealt away with, he would always act morally. With or without any abstinence pledge, the person is not going to act otherwise, because the cause of such immorality has been removed from his mentality. Arya Ashtangika Marga, or the Noble Path, means nothing but the eradication of the root cause of immorality. A vata, on the other hand, is not concerned with the eradication of the root cause of immorality. Rather, it aims at preventing immoral behavior, trying to keep aside the root cause of immorality without really disintegrating it. There is always the chance for an immoral act to take place, as its root cause is still present. I hereby solemnly promise not to commit immoralities such as killing, stealing, deceit, intoxication, gambling, bodily misbehavior, false speech, malicious gossiping, slanderous speech, or frivolous speech. This way, one would have to commit to the abstinence pledges to maintain moral behavior. If his mentality is purified somehow, he would not be required to make a commitment again. With or without the abstinence pledges, he would only be acting morally, as the root cause of defilements has already been eradicated from his mind. This is called the eradication of the latent disposition of defilement. The latent dispositions of defilements, or the anushaya, remains hidden inside the mind. It has not yet emerged in the absence of a conducive environment. And when the conducive environment is provided with, the latent disposition can become operational. Thus, a possessor of the latent disposition of defilements might have to make use of the abstinence pledges to assist with his mindfulness. If the latent disposition of defilements has been eradicated, even with the presence of favorable sense objects, immoral acts driven by the desire, aversion, and delusion will not arise. The reason being the destruction of the root cause of desire, aversion, and delusion. The latent disposition of defilements has been eradicated. The eradication of the latent disposition of defilements is the purpose of the noble path. Only the Buddhists are able to eradicate the latent disposition of defilements. One has to listen to the Dhamma and figure out the medication that is required for the eradication of the latent disposition of defilements. Having figured out and administered the medicine properly, he would enjoy the fortune of being freed from the latent disposition of defilements. Without having the proper medicine at disposal, the practitioners are not yielded with the eradication of the latent disposition of defilements due to the limited efficacy of the abstinence pledges. They might become more disciplined, but never lose the potential to commit an immoral act. That could happen any time when the guard of the heedfulness is down. The nobles, however, are not susceptible to that. The nobles have eradicated the principal cause of greed, aversion, and delusion of their minds. If the root cause of greed, aversion, and delusion has been destroyed, even in minute amounts, that would allow an individual to enter the noble path. Having seen this much, we were able to discern whether the path that we are treading is a rightful path or not. We need the Magga Magga Jnana Dassana Visuddhiyā to identify it. Individuals who have not gained the Magga Magga Jnana Dassana Visuddhiyā get into various views and look to create a utopian society that is full of saints and no sinners. But that would not be the correct path. Such a path is impossible. That would not be the path that one should follow. With the Magga Magga Jnana Dassana Visuddhiyā, he would not be disturbed by any outcome. He knows the correct path and what is not. He knows the path to nirvana and the path to suffering. He knows the possible path and what is impossible. With the Magga Magga Jnana Dassana Visuddhiyā section of the Sapta Visuddhiyā, he would know the contribution of a particular course of actions for the attainment of nirvana or for the benefit of others, as well as its limitations. For this reason, without the Magga Gnāna Dassana Visuddhiyā, one is unable to gain the Patipada Jnana Dassana Visuddhiyā. Without knowing the correct path, how could one get on with the correct course of practice? Before considering an appropriate karmasthāna, we need to understand the noble truth of suffering. From that point onwards, the defilements will start to disintegrate little by little, until even the latent disposition of defilements have been done away with, yielding arahatship. With that, the eradication or deactivation of greed, aversion, and delusion would become complete. The path to achieve that cannot be found outside the Buddhist practice. No one can objectively argue about the existence of a path to bring about the eradication of greed, aversion, and delusion. Anybody can claim it, of course, but that claim can never be proven right. The only doctrine that is backed by a provable theory of cause and effects is Buddhism. The theory of causes and effects that it presents is demonstrable. The causes and effects theory of the rightful Dhamma pattern has been introduced by the Lord Buddha, and that is what we identify as the healing medicine of Dhamma. The Buddhist path is very sensible as well as simple, but at the early stages it is not possible to renounce all defilement phenomena in a heartbeat. Firstly, one has to tell himself, I have no use of the unwholesome deeds. I am not overly pursuing sensual pleasures. This is how to begin with the renunciation. A Sotapanna firstly renounces overreaching aspirations. Not all of the aspirations have been renounced. The fetters of kamaraga and patiga, or sensual desire and ill will, still remain. But he identifies kamaraga as a path towards tormenting fires, and he knows that the total appeasement would only come from its renunciation. Knowing it, he practices the path, and with the growth in the level of enlightenment, he would step by step become Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arihat. So we have to note the total purification only comes at the end. Till then, we do not have to do anything exclusive like committing to some abstinence pledge. It is understood that progress along the noble path is only possible with the renunciation that comes from the insightful disenchantment with sensual pleasures. When we realize that we can be liberated only with the assistance of the healing medicine of Dhamma, we are prompted to follow nothing but the noble path. At this level of enlightenment, we would be experiencing a dip in the perceived worth of the desired and agreeable things that we hold on to. Previously, they would have been held wholeheartedly. The mentality of an inept worldly being no longer exists. We have listened and understood the Dhamma. This is a fortune that we have not enjoyed ever during the infinite samsaric journey. The Dhamma gave rise to the conviction that the worldly phenomena are of non-essence, despite the outer delusion of essence. Thus, it is understood that pursuing them would be a futile exercise. The moment the non-essence of the worldly phenomena is grasped, the eye of Dhamma is opened. That means the individual has become a Sotapanna. Afterwards, he is unlikely to be incurred with the potent Cetana to commit sins that would yield rebirths in hell realms. The false idea of unlimited worthiness or essence in the worldly phenomena has been done away with. What remains is a limited worthiness or essence relating to the sensual objects that are still associated with. The unlimited amount of aspirations towards the worldly phenomena driven by the false view of worthiness or essence is no longer operational, such that the operational level of aspirations towards the worldly phenomena is not that robust. For this reason, he is not going to be involved with a sinful course of actions that would result in rebirths in hell realms. In other words, even the latent disposition has been exhausted. It does not mean that all unwholesome deeds have been removed. If he commits any killing of living beings, stealing, or bodily misconduct at all, they would not be that severe in nature to yield rebirths in hell realms. The sinful actions, if committed at all, would not be as corrupted. This is the first round of honesty or avankatva that has been acquired. While reflecting on the actions, they would seem to have become much more honest, moral, and upright, all because of the level of enlightenment acquired. The speech too has become much more refined and purer, or pirisindhu. Previous verbal actions such as false speech, tale-bearing, slanderous speech, frivolous speech have faded. The words uttered are predominantly Dhamma-related. What else is worth talking about? The deceitful, gossipy talk is no longer seemed attractive, as well as provoking others with harsh words, corrupting their minds with anger and deluding them with frivolous chatter. Having seen the substance of the Dhamma, which makes sense to one's wisdom, he feels like advocating Dhamma for the benefit of the others, persuading them to renounce futile worldly phenomena and to listen and understand the substance of Dhamma doctrine. With the dissociation with the false speech, tale-bearing, harsh speech, and frivolous speech, the right speech or samma vaca has become evident. The dissociation with the killing beings, stealing, bodily misconduct, the right actions or samma kammanta leg of the noble path has been developed. This is how different aspects of the practice are emerging. I no longer want to lead a sinful life. I have nothing worth of gaining. I just want to get by. For that, I do not need to deceive anybody or subject them to any injustice. I do not want to be lying, cheating, deceiving, or robbing others of their wealth and opportunities. There is nothing of substance in this existence that warrants the committing of such injustice. Now, I have a specific purpose in life. Previously, I wanted to seize all the wealth to myself. But now, I want only to get the enlightenment fulfilled, and I lead my life to facilitate that purpose. My life is led only for the purpose of attainment of nirvana. With this idea, the livelihood is adjusted, which means the right livelihood or samma ajiva is present. This is the development of another leg of the noble path. If the right speech, right actions, right livelihood arise from within, spiritually, this can be called the realization of the practice of sila. With this, the qualities of sila that are unbreakable, undamageable, invulnerable, and untainted come to be. This is called Aryakanta Silaya. The Dhamma has been understood from the bright light or Kantya arising from seeing the Dhamma. This is the practice of Sila of the nobles. The cause of rebirths in hell realms has been dissolved at the beginning of the noble path. Afterwards, he would continue to reflect on the Dhamma that he had seen. He has already understood the Dhamma that would be instrumental until the attainment of the Nirvana. There would be nothing exclusive left for him to learn to get there. Thus, he is self-reliant, or parapratyarahita. He needs no support from any outsider. The only thing left for him to do is to reflect on the Dhamma again and again. With that, the wisdom is bound to emerge with increasing strength. Now, there is a method that needs to be followed. Lord Buddha had this to say: for a person endowed with virtue, consummate in virtue, there is no need for an act of will. May freedom from remorse arise in me. It is the nature of things that freedom from remorse arises in a person endowed with virtue, consummate in virtue. The individual has already become consummate in Sila, along with the understanding of Dhamma. This is not a result of an abstinence pledge. This has arisen from the insightful understanding of Dhamma. In a world of non-essence, what is the point of killing beings, stealing, thuggery, intoxication, gambling, and bodily misconduct? What is the use of the deceitful behavior, tale-bearing, and harsh speech? Why should I be deluding the worldly beings with frivolous speech? Why should I be greedy, angry, or irrational? With the understanding of Dhamma, the pointless nature of the 10 unwholesome deeds have been grasped. This is the practice of Sila. A person endowed with virtue, consummate in virtue, gains abhipratisarya, or the freedom from remorse. Abhipratisarya means the absence of a scattered mind. Vipratisarya means having a scattered mind. When the mind is freed from the worldly phenomena, the mind gets settled. Nothing exclusive has to be performed. For a person endowed with virtue, consummate in virtue, there is no need for an act of will. May freedom from remorse arise in me. It is the nature of things that freedom from remorse arises in a person endowed with virtue, consummate in virtue. The nobles get freed from remorse naturally. For a person free from remorse, there is no need for an act of will. May joy arise in me. It is the nature of things that joy arises in a person free from remorse. Nothing exclusive has to be performed. With the first impression of understanding the Dhamma, the mind gets freed, spirited, and invigorated. There will not be any lethargy towards acting in line with Dhamma. The realistic and objective understanding of the Dhamma serves as a great stimulation in this regard. For a joyful person, there is no need for an act of will. May my body be serene. It is in the nature of things that a joyful person grows serene in body. The mind and body becomes light. Life is led in a certain air of effortless lightness. For a person serene in body, there is no need for an act of will. May rapture arise in me. It is the nature of things that rapture arises in a person serene in body. This rapture is unworldly or spiritual in nature, as opposed to being carnal. This is not like that of sensual desires. It is greatly appeasing and arises from seeing the Dhamma. In the form of calming appeasement, rapture is experienced. For a rapturous person, there is no need for an act of will. May I experience pleasure. It is in the nature of things that a rapturous person experiences pleasure. Priti manasakayo pasaddati, pasaddakayo sukham deti. There, the rapture leads to serenity or lightness in mind and body. The lightness in mind and body leads to pleasure, which lasts longer. For a person experiencing pleasure, there is no need for an act of will, may my mind be immersed in samadhi. It is the nature of things that the mind of a person experiencing pleasure to become immersed in samadhi. This is an important point. So what is needed to bring about samadhi? The Lord Buddha says, for a person experiencing pleasure, there is no need for an act of will, may my mind be immersed in samadhi. It is the nature of things that the mind of a person experiencing pleasure to become immersed in samadhi. It is bound to happen. For a person whose mind is immersed in samadhi, there is no need for an act of will, may I realize the knowledge and vision of things as they actually are. It is the nature of things that a person whose mind is immersed in samadhi realizes the knowledge and vision of things as they really are. The wisdom follows the samadhi. There is nothing to be learned exclusively to gain wisdom. For a person who has the knowledge and vision of things as they actually are, there is no need for an act of will, may I grow dispassionate. It is the nature of things that a person who knows and sees things as they actually are grows dispassionate. And then, for a dispassionate person, there is no need for an act of will, may I realize the knowledge and vision of release. It is the nature of things that a dispassionate person realizes the knowledge and vision of release. One quality will lead to the others until nirvana is attained. In this way, wholesome morality or kusala silaya leads to the freedom from remorse or avipratisarya. Avipratisarya leads to joy or pramodaya. Pramodaya leads to serenity or pasaddhiya. Pasaddhiya leads to rapture or prithya. Prithya leads to pleasure or sukhaya. Sukhaya leads to samadhi. Samadhi leads to knowledge and vision of things as they actually are, or yathabhuta jnana darshanaya. Yathabhuta jnana darshanaya leads to the disenchantment or nirvedaya. Nirvedaya leads to dispassion or viragaya. Viragaya leads to the knowledge and vision of release, or vimukti jnana darshanaya. In this way, mental qualities or dharmayo lead on to mental qualities. Mental qualities bring mental qualities to their consummation for the sake of going from the near to the far shore of nirvana. This process that needs to be followed to attain nirvana is clearly mentioned in the Nachetana Karaniya Sutta. We just have to understand the reality and be virtuous. Being virtuous does not mean making use of abstinence pleasures, but listening and understanding the Dhamma and allowing the discipline to come along with the understanding. In other words, we just have to understand the Dhamma. Nothing else is required for the practicing of the noble path. And then, when the listened Dhamma is reflected on, the rest of the ground gets covered. We just have to be mindful of maintaining the wholesome morality or kusala silaya. Kosani vichaya kevalani dibbang manusa kancha brahma kosam sabba kosa mula bandhana pamutto kusalotadi pavucchato tatatta. if there is an eradication of the root fetters of false knowledge and craving, which cause the rebirth of the living beings in all sorts of bodies, including human, deva and brahma bodies, such eradication is called kusal. The meritorious deeds, O Ping, are different. They lead to the samsaric existence. Kusal, on the other hand, lead to the progression along the noble path and ultimately to nirvana. The abandonment or the cleansing off of the false knowledge and craving is a wholesome morality or kusala sila that should be practiced. To abandon the false knowledge and craving, the truth that was seen has to be reflected on again and again. There are two methods that can be used. One is to be recalling the sila visuddhiyā, or the purification of virtue. Had there been a cetana to relish the worldly phenomena that has been abundant due to the non-alignment towards a certain liking or outcome, with no liking towards killing beings, stealing and bodily misconduct, our actions have become honest, moral and upright. It becomes apparent to us. Thus, it seems that our past actions would have been dishonest, immoral and crooked. Before listening to this Dhamma, in the times when the world phenomena was seen as of the greatest essence, we could have done anything to protect our interests. We could have even killed to have it our way. Now, of course, with the understanding of the Dhamma, it is quite clear that the killing beings, stealing, intoxication, gambling, bodily misconduct, and all the sinful deeds are pointless exercises. The reality has been grasped. What would happen next? The actions have become honest, moral and upright as a result of understanding Dhamma. This is the sila visuddhiyā, or the purification of virtue. A special purification has been achieved. The honesty, morality and uprightness, or avankatva, is not an abstinence pledge. Sangvaratena silan, an innate discipline in conduct or sangvaratva has been acquired. Sang means mingling or merging with worldly phenomena. Our actions have been aimed at mingling with worldly phenomena. Sankhara means actions carried out to mingle with worldly phenomena. Sangvaranava means to keep away from mingling with worldly phenomena. That characteristic trait has been abundant. It has been renounced. Sankhara nature has been abundant, acquiring Sangvara qualities. Sangvaratena silan. In the sense of the innate discipline in conduct, sila can be identified. But how can the acquired Sangvara qualities be recognized? Previously, I had taken part in killing beings, stealing and bodily misconduct. I aspired to yield a lot of gratification from such actions. Now I see nothing of substance yielded from them. I have experienced a better form of gratification which is unworldly in nature, as opposed to being carnal. For me, it is thousands and thousands of times better. Committing unwholesome deeds is such a depravity. It is so sinful, defiling, immoral and futile. All these have been seen with conviction. The honesty, morality and uprightness, O avankatva, is manifested through the impact of the Dhamma. This would be one aspect of the sila visuddhiyā. What comes next? My speech may have been false, deceitful, gossipy, provoking, slanderous and deluding. But not anymore. My words are in accordance with Dhamma, consummate in wholesome qualities. My speech has been cleansed. Previously, it was not like that. The level of cleansing is quite evident. This would be another aspect of Sila Visuddhiyā. My thoughts may have been greedy, angry, and deluding. Not anymore. The difference is quite clear. The greedy qualities have been replaced by non-greed. I am no longer greedy to want things or to be desired. I no longer want to accumulate things for my possession in a rather self-centered manner. I do not feel like scolding or hitting anybody with anger. I am not prompted to take revenge from anybody, or to harm them, or to inflict them with any pain. I am not deluded by the worldly phenomena, so I am no longer urged to pursue them. I am acting wisely, having understood the Dhamma. I am no longer affected by greed, aversion, and delusion. My thoughts are pure, O Pivituru. This way, another aspect of the Sila Visuddhiyā ought to be experienced. My view is pure and has reached the state that can be known as Prabhāsvara. Prabha means regenerating or coming back to life again. Asvarai means the absence of the aspiration to pursue worldly phenomena from one life to the next. Such an aspiration does not blur my view anymore. It gives my view the proverbial radiance. There is nothing of substance that existence can offer. I do not want to be anything or anyone, as all those would be futile in my view. Then what should be done? If there is no aspiration to be born in any plane of existence, and if there is no appeasement other than being disenchanted, dispassionate, and emancipated, I have no view that yearn and pursue existence. The view has become Prabhāsvara. It is generally translated into English as radiant, but it has a deeper meaning. Prabhāsarai means pursuing existence from life to life. Asarai means not pursuing existence from life to the next. This is the Niruktya, or the derived interpretation of the term Prabhāsvara. We have understood these four words. We have honesty, or avankatva, the cleanliness, or pirisindu bhava, the purity, or pivituru bhava, and the radiance, or prabhāsvaratva. Radiance here means the proverbial radiance of the unblurred view. This is not a karmasthāna that came from an outsider. This has been arrived at through the moral qualities or sila guna arising from the understanding of Dhamma and the resultant Sila Visuddhiyā. Then who is the owner of the karmasthāna? The Dhamma is the owner. It is a gift received from following the guidance of Dhamma. It comes from the wholesome qualities that has arisen from practicing Dhamma. I merely stated the evident as a kalyana mitta. It is through the understanding of Dhamma, the honesty or avankatva in the bodily actions has been achieved. The cleanliness or pirisindu bhava in our speech has been achieved. The purity or pivituru bhava in our thoughts has been achieved, and the radiance or prabhāsvaratva in the view has been achieved. It is a gift or the inheritance received from following the guidance of Dhamma. Tangible experience is a basis of my honest realization of receiving the gift of Dhamma. I have realized the cleanliness in my words, received from the gift of Dhamma. This is not some knowledge received from other individuals, traditional beliefs, or religious texts. Then what am I trying here to say? The Dhamma, or the reality itself, has given me this insight. My moral uprightness is a gift of Dhamma. It springs from the guidance of Dhamma. I treat it with the greatest reverence, upholding it always. Along with the acquired moral qualities or Sila Guna, I consider this karmasthāna as an inheritance from Dhamma. No one has given it. It has not come even from this sermon. Requesting a karmasthāna from someone is not going to help much with the practice. Then what should be considered a karmasthāna? I have realized from within what moral uprightness is, through realizing the futility of pursuing worldly phenomena in the light of their non-essence. With that, I have realized the futility of killing beings, stealing and bodily misconduct, because I see nothing of substance that is yielded from such sinful action. I have no affinity towards them any more, and it is unlikely for me to commit or relish such deeds. This renunciation is my own experience. It is not somebody else's experience. It is not a result of any abstinence pledge either. With the understanding of Dhamma, the latent disposition of the defilements has been disintegrated. The apprehending of Dhamma will not change, as it has been apprehended truthfully. Such Dhamma can never be proved wrong. It holds true to the past, to the present, and to the future. No one can point out that the applicable Dhamma is changing from time to time. It is a truth held by all phenomena. The abandonment of sinful actions is a direct result of apprehending the truth. Therefore, even in the future, I would not be prompted to go back to the sinful ways until and even after the attainment of the nirvana, the disintegrated part of the defilements will not come back. Thus, I insightfully see the proof of the eradicative abandonment or samucceda prahāna of the defilements. That is how the eradicative abandonment of the defilements is experienced. Those defilements will not emerge again. For the defilements to emerge again, the understanding of Dhamma has to be reversed. Had some Dhamma been apprehended truthfully, such apprehending will not possibly go away. If some truth is understood, nothing will be left to understand at a later date. The understanding is permanent. What is known will remain known. The knowing will not be reversed. The apprehended knowledge is based on causality. It is not causally possible to change that later. If certain moral qualities or Sila Guna have been acquired, there would only be the possibility for further cleansing. An increase in the level of corruption is not a possibility. If any sort of view that could have caused a rebirth in hell realms has been abandoned, it would have been abandoned for good. That sort of deprived views are not going to be operational again. This is the Pahana Sila, or the morality of abandonment. If the sinful actions that could have led to the rebirths in hell realms have been abandoned, it will remain abandoned for good. They cannot be creeping back into the enlightened mind. There arises the qualities of Sila that are unbreakable, undamageable, invulnerable, and untainted. Once abandoned, the defilements stay abandoned. Had certain sinful actions were relished, such relishing or ramana gets stopped with the enlightenment. Sinful actions will not be enjoyed any longer. That would be the Veramani Sila, or the morality of non-enjoyment. Had there been the occurrence of some cetana or volition that could have led to a rebirth in hell realms, that sort of cetana would not occur any longer. That would be the cetana sila, or the morality of volition. Had there been some lack of restraint that could have resulted in a rebirth in hell realms, that lack of restraint would no longer be present. The restraint has been achieved. This is the samvara sila, or the morality of restraint. Until the attainment of full enlightenment, this restraint is bound to grow, along with the underlying wholesome qualities. There would be no reason for the restraint to be breached. This is the avitikkama sila, or the morality of non-transgression. A sotapanna is endowed with this fivefold morality, or Pansilu, right from the moment of understanding the Dhamma. The Pansilu consists of 5 types of sila, called pahana, veramani, cetana, samvara, avitikkama, that we have just explained. They are unbreakable, undamageable, invulnerable, and untainted. They cannot be breached. Abstinence pleasures, however, are always vulnerable to breach. As previously explained, as long as the hands are present, one would be able to touch anything. He would have to remain vigilant and act carefully. But with the hands cut off, he would not be able to touch anything with or without careful attention. With the eradicative abandonment or samucceda prahāṇaya of the root view or mula ditti, through the apprehending of Dhamma, there can never be the possibility for sinful actions that would yield a rebirth in hell realms. In other words, the acquired moral qualities are unbreakable, undamageable, invulnerable, and untainted. They cannot be breached. Abstinence pleasures, however, are always vulnerable to breach. Thus, with or without being attentive not to commit sinful actions, they are bound not to happen. That is purification. We have arrived at a fitting karmasthāna based on sila visuddhiyā. Now with the reflection of the sila visuddhiyā, the citta visuddhiyā, or the purification of mind, should come about. In this way, wholesome morality, or kusala sila, leads to the freedom from remorse, or avipratisāraya. Avipratisāraya leads to joy, or pramodaya. Pramodaya leads to serenity, or passaddhya. Passaddhya leads to rapture, or prithiya. Prithiya leads to pleasure, or sukha, and so on. It is the nature of things. It is bound to happen. So, we should not be worrying about anything else. When we are endowed with samadhi, it would become evident. Until then, we should not worry about when it would emerge. We know of the wholesome qualities that we have acquired, which we reflect on with this karmasthāna. Avanka vemi, pirisindu vemi, pivituru vemi, pabasara vemi. I would be honest, I would be clean, I would be pure and a radiant being. Now I would have to pacify the urge to keep on pursuing worldly phenomena. San sinduvami, san sinduvami, san sinduvami, san sinduvami. Avanka vemi, piri sinduvami, pivituru vemi, pabasara vemi. Pacifying the urge for worldly pursuits, I would be honest, I would be clean, I would be pure and a radiant being. Pacifying the urge for worldly pursuits, I would be honest, I would be clean, I would be pure and radiant being. Without overly extending, someone can chant the karmasthāna in a calm, clear manner, while the others are sitting in meditation. The chanting should be methodical, fitting to Dhamma meaning, as well as easy on the ears. The listeners, as well as the reciter, are bound to be endowed in samadhi. The chanting of the karmasthāna can be done alone or in groups. In a group setting, one person can conduct the chanting session, reciting the karmasthāna in an orderly manner, which could then be repeated by the listeners. There is another point that we need to understand if we are to understand this further. This sort of karmasthāna sessions would lead to the abiding of devas, or divya viharanaya, which is exactly what has been given by the Lord Buddha. With the aid of these sessions, a practitioner can reach up to the level of the fourth jhana. Up to the fourth jhana, there lies the abiding of devas, or the divya viharanaya. The abiding of Brahmas, or Brahma viharanaya, is what the Lord Buddha has given for the practicing light, or for the practicing of the metta, or goodwill. This karmasthāna too can be adjusted for practicing metta. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu sattvayo avanka vetva pirisindu vetva pivituru vetva pabasara vetva. May all living beings and I be honest, be clean, be pure and radiant beings. The karmasthāna is directly seeking the attainment of the nirvana. May all living beings and I be honest, be clean, be pure and radiant beings. If achieved, the nirvana represents the best of the best any living being can have. So in this karmasthāna, that is exactly what we are wishing unto all living beings. We are used to the karmasthāna, siyalu sattvayo niduk vetva, nirogi vetva, suwapat vetva, dukin midetva. This is used for practicing metta to all living beings. But what exactly did we mean while reciting those words? The karmasthāna that is based on the principle of sapta visuddhiyā, or the 7 stages of purification, is a new karmasthāna. But it is not something that I introduced. Rather, I pronounced the Dhamma conceptualized by each of you from within. The honesty has been achieved based on the goodwill towards the fellow living beings. How good it would seem if they too were acquired with the honesty to get out of killing beings, stealing and bodily misconduct. This honesty only comes from understanding Dhamma. Thus, worldly beings will never be led to their liberation unless they have acquired this honesty. So what else should I be wishing unto them? The Lord Buddha preached this. I do not see any comfort and peace to the living beings apart from the meditative qualities, factors of awakening and nirvana. So, that is the only comfort and peace that we can wish unto fellow living beings, because nothing else matters.
වහරක Thera Waruna Wajrāsana.
the undefilable Dhamma.